Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking some seriously profound philosophical insights and turning them into a structured visual journey. We are talking about incredibly grounded yet massively sweeping principles about how we actually exist in this world. We're going to discover exactly how these laws work and, most importantly, how we can apply them directly to our own lives right now.
So when we talk about living a good life, we're really just looking for a compass, aren't we? We want something that tells us how to act, what pitfalls to avoid, and how to interact with the crazy forces around us. Well, let's dive right into this question by looking at a remarkably powerful framework that basically takes us all the way from our daily personal habits right up to universal natural laws. To find that compass, we're going to be exploring 9 absolutely vital excerpts. These are translated straight from the philosopher Zhu Fang's March 2024 work, which is titled The 18 Truths One Needs to Understand in Life. We've specifically curated the 9 most impactful maxims from that text to build a really clear, totally actionable guide for you today. And we've organized these 9 maxims into a journey of ascent. It gives you a cohesive 3-step blueprint. First up, mastering the inner self. Second, navigating universal natural laws. And third, reaching the spiritual peak. Okay, let's jump straight into section 1, mastering the inner self, the groundwork of the self. In this first stage, our focus is entirely on the most grounded, practical, day-to-day advice regarding your personal character. We're going to unpack 4 specific truths from Zhu Fang to show you exactly how mastering your own inner foundation is the absolutely crucial first step here. Because think about it, without this groundwork, literally nothing else can be built. Starting with truth 1, you have to realize that respect simply cannot be demanded. It is a natural byproduct of cultivating your own inherent worth. It's a super pragmatic view, honestly. You can't just force people to hold you in high esteem by making loud demands or throwing your weight around. No way. You actually have to build your own value first. The respect, well, that follows the value. Definitely not the other way around. Moving to truth 3, and this one is just beautifully straightforward. It reminds us that no matter what the situation is, honesty remains the ultimate guiding principle. In a world full of people trying to constantly play 4D chess, Zhu Fang cuts right through the noise. Just be honest. Seriously, it is the absolute most reliable foundation you can lay for your own inner self. Then we hit truth 4. This offers incredibly practical advice for what Zhu Fang refers to as the commoner. The advice? Just carry out your tasks quietly and completely refuse to drain your precious energy by arguing, debating, or quarreling with people. Just think about how much time we lose every single day in pointless arguments. This truth is basically screaming at us to protect our energy and just focus on the actual work. And that brilliantly illustrates truth 6, which shows us the incredibly dangerous domino effect that kicks in the very second you prioritize comfort over discipline. It outlines a really stark progression. Step 1, you start craving comfort and pleasure. Step 2, you are officially on the road to corruption and degeneration. And step 3, what's the inevitable end of that road? Pain and disaster. It's a massive warning against letting your standards slip just because something feels a little easier in the moment. So the major takeaway here is that mastering these internal behaviors, building your value, practicing brutal honesty, working quietly, and dodging that comfort trap, all of that protects you from self-sabotage. It gets you completely prepared for the wider world. And once you've got this sorted, you're officially ready for the next level. Let's move right into our second level, section 2, navigating universal natural laws, interacting with the forces of the world. Here is where we see how all that inner groundwork you just built dictates the way you interact with invisible forces. In this stage, we're covering 3 more truths that act basically like a map for safely navigating the really complex, often hidden laws of nature and society. They teach us how to align ourselves so we don't end up getting completely crushed by forces we can't even see. Truth 2 throws up a huge warning sign against taking shortcuts. It makes it crystal clear that seeking a free ride is inevitably going to ensnare you in someone or something else's trap. This builds perfectly on what we were just saying about the dangers of comfort, right? If you're out here looking for an advantage without actually putting in the effort, you are making yourself incredibly vulnerable. You're just walking right into a trap. In fact, as the source intensely warns, if it's not a human trap, it's a devil's trap. Now notice the fascinating mechanism of asking for help in truth 5. The source material flat out states that if you wish to receive help from the heavens, the earth, gods, and people, you have to clearly articulate your desires and requests. They literally cannot help you unless you make your intentions undeniably clear. You can't just sit around passively hoping the universe somehow figures out what you want. You have to explicitly state it. Which brings us to truth 7. This one states that what you receive and what you give are always exactly equal. Shufeng tells us this is the actual way of heaven, and it's the fundamental principle of nature. It's an unbending cosmic equation. You simply cannot ultimately extract more from the world than you put into it. It just doesn't work like that. And Zufeng expands beautifully on this in Truth 7 by reminding us to maintain our emotional equilibrium. We need to avoid both secret greed and bitter resentment, because giving and receiving are naturally perfectly equal. Getting a sudden windfall isn't a reason to secretly celebrate like you've somehow tricked the system. And on the flip side, giving of yourself shouldn't lead to resentment or regret, because the balance, it will absolutely always restore itself. Recognizing and accepting these universal laws really matters. Why? Because it completely insulates you from resentment, and it aligns your actions with the natural flow of the world. By avoiding shortcuts, articulating your needs out loud, and respecting that balance of give and take, you get to move smoothly through life rather than constantly fighting against it. Finally, we reach Section 3, reaching the spiritual peak, the ultimate summit. Up here, we encounter the absolute highest philosophical ideals presented in Zhufeng's writing. These final two truths elevate our perspective far, far beyond our little daily tasks and our own personal desires. They're asking us to look way up, to the ultimate forces and the absolute ultimate examples of human behavior. Truth 8 calls for a profound level of humility. It asks us to recognize and respect the massive, life-giving forces that surround us. It's a call to revere the greatest creator, to revere the sheer force of life itself, and to follow the path of nature. Once you've mastered yourself and understood the world's laws, this step is really all about surrendering your ego to the sheer majesty of existence. Concluding our whole journey with Truth 9, we learn that the ultimate spiritual goal is transcending the ego entirely. It's about looking toward completely selfless individuals as our true guides. Shufeng defines these incredibly fine, selfless people as saints and notes that following their example is the direct path to heaven. It's the ultimate pinnacle, right? Shifting completely from focusing on the self to becoming entirely selfless. Having journeyed all the way from the grounded rules of our inner self up through universal laws and finally to the spiritual peak of selflessness, we've mapped out a truly complete philosophy for living. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look really closely at your habits today. Are you building that solid foundation, or are you accidentally walking straight into a trap? The map has been laid out by Shufeng, but the real question is, how far up the summit are you actually willing to climb?